And what's up guys, CW here, and today we are talking intermittent fasting. First of all, what is intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is actually an umbrella term for a few different approaches where you actually incorporate periods of fasting into your normal routine. Now, the most common one is time-restricted eating or time-restricted feeding, where there's a certain window of time during the day you're not eating. Most commonly, there's something like the 16-8, where you're fasting for 16 hours out of the 24 hours and you're limiting all your food intake to those 8 hours a day. Some people will go more restrictive into something like an 18-6 or a 24, but 16-8 is oftentimes the most popular. Now, some people do alternate day fasting where every other day they're actually eating very low calories, like under 500, or they're fasting completely. There's also the 5-2 pattern, which out of the 7 days a week, you're eating normally 5 days a week, and 2 days on non-consecutive days, you are fasting or again, having very low calories. So as you can see, there's a few different ways to do it, but by and large, the time-restricted eating is the most popular. So why would you want to do intermittent fasting? Well, most people just default to weight loss and fat loss, but it's much more than that. Think about when we don't eat, what exactly happens? Well, number one, you give your gut a rest. So those people with irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease, bloating, heartburn may actually benefit from giving their gut a rest. Number two, the gut is where 70-80% of your immune system is. So by giving it a rest, oftentimes it gets to work on dampening inflammation. And indeed, intermittent fasting has been shown to lower IL-6 and other inflammatory markers. Third, by giving your gut a rest, you actually allow it time to actually work on fixing itself and cleaning up. If we're constantly throwing food down our digestive tract, it never basically does a deep clean, but doing a fast, we allow autophagy, which is the term for self-cleanup. Our cells actually get time to clean up some of those broken and dysfunctional cell components and actually work on intracellular pathogens, including certain bacteria and different things like that. Now, by not eating for a certain amount of time, you actually can help improve your insulin level. So this is helpful for people with prediabetes or diabetes. Of course, also you start burning up all your sugar, then you start transitioning to burning fat. This is known as ketosis, which has been made popular by the ketogenic diet. When you go into ketosis, you make these compounds called ketone bodies, and ketone bodies can actually help induce production of BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is beneficial for your neurological system, including your brain. This has been shown to be helpful for people with dementia, like Alzheimer's. Other people with mood disorders even have noticed some benefits in terms of their anxiety and depression improving with some intermittent fasting. And also, if you start burning fat, you start losing fat everywhere, including your liver. Now, fatty liver is one of the biggest epidemics in our country and world today. And so by actually losing fat and actually improving fatty liver, that's a very good thing. So who does intermittent fasting benefit? Well, I just mentioned the pre-diabetics and diabetics, those with fatty liver, those with rheumatological issues, those with dementia. So those are some of the big populations that can benefit from this. But even someone without health issues may occasionally do this and find some benefit as well. Now, who should not do this? Well, first of all, I would say children. Children, we as healthcare providers advise against putting on very restrictive diets. Women that are pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or are breastfeeding, also advise against that. There's been some controversy about intermittent fasting and women in general because it may affect their hormones, but actually if done properly, it may be an okay thing. Now, those with eating disorders, definitely not a good idea to do intermittent fasting. Finally, those who are very critically ill, those who are very sick, that don't have body weight or fat that they can spare, should not be doing this either. Now, finally, how? Well, how, I would say number one is do it gradually, work your way into it gradually. If you're not used to prolonged periods of fasting, then I would start off with something like a 12-12 pattern and then eventually go to a 16-8 pattern over time. So maybe do 12-12 for a few weeks, then go to a 14-10 and then do a 16-8. Because if you do it too fast, you will get hangry, you will get headaches, you will feel horrible. So work your way into it. Eventually, though, you do want to get to ideally around that 16-hour time frame of fasting because studies have shown that to actually enter into ketosis, which is one of the benefits, you actually have to be fasting for about 16 hours. Some can go as early as 12 hours. Some have to wait to 30 hours. Part of it depends on how insulin resistant you are actually. Number two, do not be overly restrictive on your calories or your nutrients. I always tell people, when you have less opportunities to eat, you better make those opportunities very, very nutritious meals because Otherwise, you are going to be lacking certain nutrients. So one big one is protein. So menopausal women should be having around 60, 70, 80 grams of protein even in that restricted time window. And so generally, it's probably a good idea to have 2 meals within even a limited time window instead of 1 meal a day, because that's very hard to get that much protein and nutrients all in one meal. Finally, one other thing to consider is when you go into ketosis, you may start losing electrolytes. So you may need to replenish things like salt, like sodium, magnesium, potassium. And we know a lot of people that are concerned about salt, but this is one case where you actually should replenish that. So something like 2 grams of sodium a day would be very important. And that's it. Those are some of the big things with intermittent fasting. Those are the highlights. Hope you found this beneficial, and let me know what benefits you've had with doing intermittent fasting. Until next time, take care.